On the little servo nubs that hold the servos in, it can be a real pain to actually get those done. So what I do is just go ahead, and I don't know if you can see that there, but I go ahead and just CA glue them right to the frame, and it's not going to be enough to, you know, hold them there permanently, but it'll be enough to get the screw threaded and everything when you stick the servo in. So just put a little drop of CA on it and stick it on there, and sure makes it a lot easier to hold those in place while you screw in the screws. I wanted to show you this just to reinforce the point. Putting a little bit of CA on those little nubs is a really great idea. Just go ahead and do it. So let me show you here. It's not enough to hold it permanently, but when you can just take your screw, go in right like that, and I didn't have to fiddle around with holding that stupid little nub or anything like that. It just went right in. Perfect. So, I don't know if you've ever done one of these before, but that is a super big time saver. So just take my word for it and go ahead and do that. Alright, after I get the servos mounted in there, I've got the control horns and the balls and everything all on them. I like to go ahead and turn on the radio, plug back in the receiver, and you can actually start doing your radio setup now. So I want to make sure that my servos that I thought were centered are actually still centered, and it looks like they're not. So I might have to take the horns off. And you can also check your servo reversing at this time, and I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. Let me go into my menu here, make sure I'm still at 50% on the pitch curve. Okay, still at 50%. Looks like I've got these servo horns, I got them off by one hole. So go ahead and take them off and put them back on the centered location where I had them before. Okay. Careful when you're pulling these off that you don't actually pull on the carbon fiber frames, but pull on the servo itself. Once you have them perfectly straight and all figured out and everything, and the bags that the servos actually came in, little bags that have all these control horns, different ones in there, get out the little screw. Tiny little screw there, and just go ahead and use the magnet trick and screw the servo horns on permanently. Alright, now to check your radio setup, I'm going to go back into the servo reversing screen. On the DX7, that is this one, Okay? And the easiest way to actually check to see if your servos need to be reversed is to give it some collective changes. So I've got the helicopter in throttle hold mode, and in that mode I have a straight pitch curve. And what you're going to do is just make sure that the servos are moving together. And I don't know if you can see that there, but they are not. Okay, that's totally wrong. This is more pitch. This is less pitch. So what I want for more pitch is I want all the servos to move upward. And so it looks like this servo and this one are backwards, because when I give it more pitch, or no. Looks like that one's right, and the other two need to be reversed. So what that is reversing the elevator servo. And that other one, I believe, is my pitch servo. No. Okay, so that's how it should work. When you give more collective, they should all move upwards together. And when you need less collective, they move downwards together. Okay, that is how to set up your reversing. This applies to any helicopter, so that's step number one. And now, since I did have sub trim used to center the servo for the elevator one, what I'm going to have to do is go in and reverse that. So I had like plus 20 something dialed in on it. So what I'm going to have to do is go and, since I reversed this servo, I'm going to have to change that to minus whatever it was. So again, after you get the servo reversing set up correctly, make sure that you go back, center them all again. If you reversed any of them, you may need to, change the sub trim and probably go to a negative or positive number, depending on what you used before. Okay, the next step is to go into your radio where it says swash mix. Okay, now, since I used the pitch or collective channel to figure out my servo reversing, I should not need to change the pitch number, but if my elevator and aileron directions are backwards, then I may actually need to change those. So what I'm going to do is leave these all at 40 right now, and then when I get to setting up the swash plate, I may actually increase all of these numbers together, may increase one or the other depending on how much collective I'm getting, but I don't want to start with too much, and I've heard that 40 is a good number on these. We'll see where we end up, but the next thing you need to do is actually set the helicopter this, so that you're looking at it from behind. And I'll go ahead and do that here for you, your perspective there. So, and then you're gonna just input some cyclic and see what the directions are. So first I'm going to do right cyclic, and what I should see is this servo should go down and this one should go up, and what that would do would be tilt the swash plate to the right. So if I go that way, that's indeed what happens. So I know that I have my aileron correct, so that's a right roll and that would be a left roll. Okay, now on the elevator, when I push forward, I should see this one go upward, and I should see these two both go downward. So I'm going to push forward, up, now upward, and downward. So that's actually also correct. So there's backward elevator, which, you know, as you can see, it's going to tilt the swash plate this way. So now there's not a whole lot of movement here right now, and I may actually increase these numbers so that I can get more cyclic pitch changes, but this will be good for right now. We'll just have to see how that affects the swash plate when we actually get that on there. So I actually got lucky, got everything in the right directions first try. But you know, if one of these was backwards, then you would just go into the swash plate mixing and change the number from plus to minus, or from minus to plus, whatever it needs to be. Alright, the last thing I'm going to do in this video is to just go ahead and mount the landing gears. And I wanted to show you on my kit, I don't know if yours will be like this, but on my kit, there was a little bit of mold flashing left over on the tray, the bottom plastic tray, and it was making it so that the frame wouldn't close completely down onto here. So, you know, look for that, make sure everything's fitting tight, and try to figure out what's in the way if it is. And I just had to remove a little bit of junk from here so that I could get the frame to go ahead and close down all the way. And when you go ahead and put the support booms, the boom support struts, which go into these little holes here, you'll want those to tighten up. So in order to get those flush against there, you want to make sure there's no junk from the mold still left over here. So putting the landing gears on, make sure you get them the right direction. You just go like that. And there's some of these tiny little screws. Again, I got a magnet on my wrench just to hold the screw a little bit better. These screws will slip through the landing gear pieces. It doesn't actually grip in the landing gear itself, but it will grip into the little holes. There's 4 little holes on the base of that, and all you need to do is just screw those on. So on these, just snug them down, you know, don't get them really tight. You get them too tight and they're just going to strip the plastic. If you're neurotic, you could put a little CA thread lock or something on there, but I'm not going to worry about it. Next thing you want to do is just set your heli on the table and go ahead and pull on the landing gear just a little bit like this while you push down. And what that'll do is just help them to line up. Make sure you got the same distances here that you want and the proportions are all correct. I'm not going to glue these in right now. I'm just going to go ahead and leave them like they are. I don't think they really need to be glued down. If they start slipping around while I'm flying and stuff, then I'll go ahead and glue them down. But for now, I'm just going to leave them like this instead of getting them all ugly with CA. Alright, so it's starting to look a little bit more like a helicopter now. And so that was the servo installation, some of the radio setup. We'll do some of the rest of the radio setup later. But overall, that part's pretty easy, pretty standard, same as other helicopters. Next we'll do the motor pinion and the gears and everything like that. So stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching.